Welcome again to Inquiring Minds. You might notice I'm in a museum today. You notice the sitting is a little different. We do that from time to time. But today I have a very special guest with me. This is Mr. Donnie Burks. We are here at the Benton Athletic Memorial Museum, the Tom Harden building. And Mr. Burks is going to tell us a little bit about the museum, how it got started, what is in here, what it contains, and it's just unbelievable of all the history that's in here and everything. Welcome, Mr. Burks.
Glad to be here. Glad you could come.
Well, I'm glad that we could get together and do this because this is history, and I love history, especially school history. Would you tell us, to begin with, how this all got started?
Well, back about late 1995, after Coach Harden, who was a former Benton High School Panther coach here, had retired as superintendent of the Pulaski County School District. Him and his wife had been moving around the different districts. In fact, when Coach Harden had left here, he was the first coach from Saline County, the very first coach from Saline County, when he left here, became the head coach of the Fayetteville Bulldogs. There was another coach later on from this county that went to Fayetteville. But Coach Tom Harden was the first coach from Saline County to become the head coach of the Fayetteville Bulldogs. After he left Fayetteville, he went to the University of Arkansas as a track coach for Frank Royals, and then he became the assistant superintendent of the Dade County School District in Florida.
Ooh.
Then his wife and family moved back to Little Rock, and he became superintendent of the Pulaski County School District, and that's where he stayed until he retired. When he retired, he asked his wife, Betty, said, what do you want to do? She said, I want to go back to Benton. He said, I was hoping you'd say that. So they came back to Benton and built a home over here off Alcoa. And so he was reminiscing and getting together with his buddies every once in a while in downtown Benton. And they was talking about the good old Panther days back in the day. Back in the day. There was about 8 or 9 of them that were sitting around there at the Toggery men's store that was in downtown Benton, that was owned by J. Bird Nutt. And they got to reminiscing so much that each week the meetings would get bigger and bigger with bigger crowds. And so somebody had brought up the fact, said, we need to, get a room to put this stuff in. Somebody said, room nothing, we need a building. Well, voila. And so to show you how it just exploded at that point, the meetings were moved to different businesses around town to try to accommodate the crowds. And so the last meeting that was held in a business was at Dan Yoakum's place. Yoakum and Lovell accounting firm?
Yes.
Okay. That was probably the last meeting that was held in that, because the crowds were so big, we had to get the Benton State Bank Community Room, which is now the Regions Bank out on Military. And that night when we had the first full-blown big meeting, there was about 65 people that had showed up.
Wow.
That was interested in building this building.
Impressive.
Yes, and so Coach Harden had, at that point, started setting up a committee. There was people like Johnny Wilbanks, who was very instrumental in helping with this program. There was J. Bird Nutt, Millard Nix, Nelson Rainey, okay? Individuals like that who were the rock and soul of Benton at that time, and who were very instrumental in wanting to preserve the history.
And what time period was this?
This was in late 1995.
Okay.
Okay. So then what happened, Coach Harden and Mr. Hertzfeld, who was retired from the Benton School Board, they went to the school superintendent's office and had a meeting to try to come up with a plan to build this building, and wanted to know if the school district had a plot of land that they weren't using that they would donate. This was it. And all this was at that time was the rock pile.
And just for our viewers' sake who may not know where this is located, would you give us the location?
Sure. It's located on the campus of Benton High School. And if you go down to the new part of the school and come all the way down to the end of the school campus, you can't miss us, because at the front it says Harden Museum. So when that they went to the school board gave them the ground, Then the plan started to have the building constructed. And Coach Harden was able to raise the money to get the work done and to present the school board with the final product with no cost to build the building of this building. It was built by in-kind services and donations.
So there was no cost to the school board?
No
to the
school
schools
district. Right. There was no school dollars that went into this building.
Oh, that was good.
Yes, and this is the only one of its kind in the state of Arkansas. Now,
It's quite unique.
yes, it is. Now, the interesting thing about that is that Little Rock Central has one, but it's dedicated to Little Rock Central. There's no Hall High, there's no Catholic High, there's no Parkview, there's no McClellan.
Yes.
You understand? Okay. This is dedicated to the entire school district. The elementary schools, Benton Junior High Bulldogs, Westside Junior High Bulldogs, Eastside Junior High Cougars, the Warriors, and the Panthers.
Well, no, wait a minute. That's a little more than I think is here now. Would you explain some of this to us? The east side this and the east side the west. Okay, would you explain?
Sure. When
this?
Benton High School had its first junior high, it was built in 1948. In fact, we have a picture of the 1948 first Benton Junior High Bulldog football team. It was donated to the museum by Nubbin Ray, who ended up being a quarterback for the Benton High School Panthers. But when that school was built, it was the only junior high. This school the old Benton High School was built in 1954. The one that was just actually demolished and this one was built back.
Yes.
The last remains of that building, okay? When the junior high program or the population got so big, they had to come up with another junior high, okay? So then you could say, okay, yeah, we need another junior high. Where's it going to be? Well, in 1965, 66, the school that's on top of the hill now,
Yes.
that's called Benton Junior High, was built as the East Side Junior High Cougars.
So you have the east side junior high Cougars.
And then now you have the West Side Bulldogs. They're no longer just Benton Junior High Bulldogs. They're
Okay.
the West Side Junior High Bulldogs and the East Side Junior High Cougars.
Okay.
Now, people actually said, you know, Burks, how did that work? I said, well, in a concept picture like that, what you've got, you have the opportunity for more students to participate in programs that would not be able to do so under one program.
Yes, that's very true.
Okay? The band programs, for example. Okay, the Benton West Side Bulldog Band, that side of town. East Side Junior High Program Band, this side of program.
Yes.
Then when it came to the high school, then the band directors at both of these junior high presented their students to the high school band director. And he was able to choose and make one big high school band. At one time, the Benton High School Marching Panther Band had 110 people in it.
Oh,
That when they came into the C.W. Lewis Stadium, they could make a complete circle all the way around the stadium.
wow, that is really impressive.
And and it was the same way with the football program. West Side Bulldogs, East Side Cougars. Come together, one Panther football team.
I understand that.
1977, Benton High School wins its second state championship. Okay? And so there's a lot, and the cheerleader, the band, the pep stepper program was the same way.
Mm-hmm.
They had experience from both schools with all of these programs to come to the high school to make one.
It worked
And
out.
it worked perfect. I'm not saying it doesn't work now, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to promote anything or anything like that. I'm
But
just
at that
saying.
time, it
But at
worked
that,
really
it worked perfect. And and the coaching staff, and this included the basketball team too, the coaching staffs were able to look at both schools, okay, and say, hey, Coach so-and-so, this player's going to be good. You know, we make sure that when he gets to the high school, he comes and plays for us. You know, a lot of people were concerned as to how the West Side Cougar kids and the West Side Bulldog kids would get together as one.
Okay.
It worked great.
Did the east side and the west side junior highs ever play each other?
Oh
in
my
sports?
gosh, every week they were playing. In fact, that rivalry, I'm going to tell you this. Some people are going to think I'm prejudiced, but that's all right. That program generated so much enthusiasm in this town, okay, that the rivalry outmatches Benton and Bryant. I'll give you an example. There was an editorial in the Benton Courier, cartoon. And this isn't done now. It wasn't done anymore after the two junior highs dissolved. There was a roller coaster. I don't know, getting ready to come down the ramp.
Okay.
The top of the roller coaster ride was the roller coaster with a Bulldog football player sitting at the top. At the bottom was an Eastside Cougar football player with a pair of pliers.
Okay.
And you could see the way the picture was presented that he had pulled back the railing. And the cartoon says, the Cougar will derail the Bulldog. That's how big that was between those two schools. But the thing is when that was over and they became a Benton Panther, they were a Benton Panther. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand
you know,
that.
And they were able to put together one of the most dynamic, devastating programs and humiliating programs to an opponent that Benton has ever produced, because they had such camaraderie. Both schools had so much experience that when they came together as one team,
Right.
they did it. In fact, one night, it was after it was in the mid-70s, Benton High School was a member of the 4A. Hot Springs Trojans was a member of the Big Nine at that time. They were one of the largest schools in the state. They were selected as the #1 team in the state of Arkansas. Benton High School was #2. Benton had to go play Hot Springs, the #1 team in the state of Arkansas, a member of the Big Nine, at Hot Springs. When the bell sounded at the end of the ball game, Benton had upset Hot Springs 2-0 on safety. Before Benton could leave the football field, the Hot Springs Facilities Authority had already turned on the sprinkler system. They wanted Benton out of town.
It sounds
You know,
that way.
and they were able to put aside whatever differences they had to make one team, to make one thing in their mind, and that was, and this is when the concept came about, the journey for the Maroon Machine, the campaign of conflict.
I understand that.
And their goal was to win a state championship. Whatever it took. Whatever it took. Whatever it took.
One mind and one accord.
Yes, ma'am.
You get in one mind and one accord and you can accomplish anything.
Accomplish a lot. I'll give you another example that happened earlier with this. And this takes it back to the 60s. I know a lot of people think that, I dwell too much on the 50s and the 60s and 70s, but that was the days of the powerhouse.
That's true.
That was the days
It
of the
was.
powerhouse. Benton High School was a member of the 3AA West. They were #1. Hall High was a member of the Big Nine, same category as Hot
Yes.
Springs. Hall High was rated #1 in the state, #7 nationally.
Wow.
Coach Harden was the head coach of the Benton Panthers, and it was Hall High's turn to come to Benton.
Mhm.
Okay? Now, Hall High had the big hit. We're #1 in the state, and we're #7
Yes.
nationally. We're not coming to some C.W. Lewis Stadium in Benton, Arkansas. So they called Coach Harden. They wanted Coach Harden to move that ball game to Little Rock. Coach Harden asked him why. well, the implications this would have for Hall High. Coach Harden told me, he said, is it your turn to come to Benton or is it our turn to come to Little Rock? He said, well, it's our turn to come to Benton. Coach Harden said, case closed.
Good for him.
He said, you've got one of two choices. You can come to Benton and play us, or you can forfeit the game. Choice is yours.
And forfeit wasn't a choice.
And
for him.
no. And so, of course, Hall High shows up. Hall High shows up. There was over 6,700 people sitting in C.W. Lewis Stadium to watch Benton, a member of the 3AA West, number 2 in the state, take on the number 1 team in the state of Arkansas and rated number 7 nationally, the Hall High Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The ball game started. Ball game, Benton, 6. Hall, nothing. After halftime, Benton, 6. Hall High, 6.
Uh-oh.
A minute and a half left in the ball game. Hall High pulls it out 9-6.
Okay.
Which says this, is that they were so confident,
Mm-hmm.
Hall High was, they were so confident that they thought that they could pull it over Benton. They had to fight to survive that game. In fact, I had a reunion of both of those football teams on C.W. Lewis Stadium football field one night. That Hall High football team and the Benton Panthers. And they walked, it took me a while to locate all those Hall High players. And I found the kicker that had kicked the field goal to beat Benton 9-6. He was a doctor in Pine Bluff.
Wow.
And he asked me, he said, if I walk across the field, he said, they're not going to throw tomatoes at me, are they? I said, well, I said, if you come, you're going to walk across the football field. Now, what happens? I can't promise you anything.
You can't promise anything.
I can't promise
there.
anything. So he says, well, okay. So when Hall High got there that night and the Benton Panthers got there that night, they had this great big reunion. In fact, we had a big reunion for both teams here in the museum. We had a reception for them, and everything. Mm-hmm. Then they went over to the football field. And when they walked across the field together, he just happened to slip and say that the kicker, number so-and-so, and his name, was walking across the field. And I reminded everybody, I said, don't you remember he's the one that kicked the football that beat Benton 9-6, and then the crowd started going, boo, 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 and then they started applauding, And, but that was the first time I had ever seen, and ever since then, it was the first time I've ever seen 2 football teams that were on opposing sides who were willing to come back together.
Just for a reunion.
Just for a reunion. And Hall High, they told me, they came back over here after the ball game, and they said, this was really neat to get to do this. He said, the captain of the team said, more schools ought to do this. And I said, well, I just thought that since this was the anniversary date of that ball game, this would be good to do if we could get everybody to come and if we had enough people still around to play, to do it. So the museum, the point I'm trying to really make is that the museum has had an impact on the history being confined in a place like this, so that the patrons of the Benton School District and the city of Benton citizens would have something to be proud of. We have had 6 school districts that have been to this building to want to build one just like it on the campuses of their school.
A model for them.
Yes. In fact, one of the best known that was down here 2 or 3 times was Fort Smith Northside. And El Dorado has been here. Texarkana has been here. Hot Springs Trojans have been here. Whitehall now has a Wall of Fame banquet like we do. They model theirs after ours. Bauxite has a Wall of Fame banquet that they took our guidelines and developed their Wall of Fame banquet after ours. Cabot High School, who is a 7A school, and Benton's only a 6A, they built their museum and their Wall of Fame banquet strictly modeled after the Benton Panther one here in Benton.
The Wall of Fame banquet,
Mm-hmm.
what do you do? What is that about?
Okay, well, in 1996, we had our first Wall of Fame banquet. And what we were wanting to do is, number one, to recognize the past.
But we need to remember the past.
Recognize
We really
the past, and to give people some knowledge and background about the Benton School District
Yes.
and all of its different activities, not only just sports, but education and music and performing
Yes.
arts, things like that. So Coach Harden and the original board of directors wanted to come up with a plan to involve the community into this, because we wanted it to be a living thing,
Yes.
not just a
Yes.
building that Burks comes over on Sunday afternoon and dusts the footballs, you know.
No.
And so the concept and the plan was developed for a Wall of Fame, where we would induct former employees, former school students of Benton High School, who did outstanding in high school, junior high, college, and their professional life, to recognize their accomplishments. That first year, we inducted 12 people. It was a long night, I'm gonna tell you. It was a long.
That's quite
It started
a few.
at 6, and you had to let everybody talk, because the money that we were raising was going to go to scholarships.
Now, that's what I'm really getting at, the money that you were raising. Now, how were you raising money through the Wall of Fame?
Wall of Fame banquet, okay. We had set up a program where we had 5, 6, or 8 corporate sponsors, okay, who would contribute to the corporate sponsor list to help pay for the banquet and to help pay for the expenses and to help pay for the scholarships. Then we have a second tier list of banquet sponsors, which is about 200 of those, even to the day, that they contribute money to help pay for the expense of the banquet and to help us give out the scholarships.
Tell us a little bit about the scholarships.
Okay,
that you're talking
scholarships
about.
are awarded to Benton High School graduates. They are really selected. I have a what I call an education committee, which collects the resumes. The resumes come from Benton High School. Now, as you well know, we don't know these students. Okay, when we get that resume, we get, okay, yeah, we got Bob Smith's resume here, and he's all dressed up in a suit, we know what this says, but we really don't know him. Okay, so we count on Benton High School, the principal's office, the assistant principal's office, the guidance counselors, okay, to meet with the committee to help us select. Oh, we get a staff this high.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
They meet, they go over, they may have 2 meetings, they may have 3 meetings.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. And we have what we give out now, we give out 4 scholarships every year, $1,000 apiece.
To this is to graduating seniors.
Graduating
for
seniors from
college.
Benton High School, yeah. Well, college, VOTEC, anything to
Oh.
continue in education.
To continue
yeah.
their education.
Right,
Yes.
after Benton High School, And of course, that night at the banquet, they come and we present them with a plaque, recognizing their accomplishments
Yes.
and their scholarship from the museum. And then they get up and make a little thank you presentation, to the crowd, because these people that are sitting out here are the ones that's actually donated the money to
For
give
the
out the scholarship.
scholarships.
Yes.
I understand
So they get up and make the presentation. Now, along with that, then we induct people into the Wall of Fame. Those people that we induct to the Wall of Fame, we sell tickets from the museum standpoint, for people to buy tickets to come to the Wall of Fame banquet, which also helps us defray the expenses. Now, if we're inducting you into the Wall of Fame, we're not going to charge you to come to the Wall of Fame.
Okay, thank you.
No. If you have a bunch of friends that are going to come, well, they're going to have to pay.
Okay.
No, we're not going to charge you to induct yourself. You know what I'm saying? So,
I understand that.
But anyway, the Wall of Fame banquet is a great part of the Benton Athletic Memorial Museum. It is the jugular vein, I guess you could call it, that is the catapult to keep this thing really going. Because we have so much involvement now
Yes.
with people. And the schools, particularly Benton Junior High, Benton High School, and Benton Middle School, who use this building as a training tool for students to understand what has been, so they can understand, well, you know, hey, I could do that. You know, I've had students who come in here, and I had one student come in here about 3 years ago and saw that picture of Bobby Nix up there, and he said to me, he said, Mr. Donnie said, is it true he was Benton High School's first All-American? I said, yes, sir. Mr. Nix was Benton High School's first All-American. He said, well, he said, I'll tell you what. I said, what? He said, I'm going to make a deal with you. I said, well, let me hear it first. And he said, you can get ready in a few years to take that down because mine's going up in this place.
It
Now,
inspired him.
it inspired that young man. It inspired that young man. I had a young man that come in here one time that saw a picture of a basketball team laying on the table. He looked over there and he said, Mr. Burks said, I was supposed to be in that picture.
Okay.
And I said, you were? He said, yeah. I said, were you sick that night? No. I got in trouble with the coach. He wouldn't let me play that. He said, so see, that's kind of like an inspiration too. You know, the museum, after you get past the Wall of Fame, the museum, Coach Harden and that original group is the reason why the building is here. That the other people that have come along, Coach Harden is the only one that can have pulled this off.
That's why he did it.
Mm-hmm. And so many of his former football players, people that he'd become acquainted with. I mean, when he announced the plans for this, he didn't have to ask.
They were all there to help.
They were all there to help.
They
Yeah.
were there to
In fact, the first year of the Wall of Fame banquet, the ground was leveled. Second year of the Wall of Fame banquet, the concrete had been poured. Third year of the Wall of Fame banquet, foundation was going up.
Wow.
Fifth year of the Wall of Fame banquet, it was over. In fact, we had a dedication service. We presented the keys to the school district and gave the building to them. Of course, then they gave it back to us, but yeah, they gave it back to us.
Say, here, we don't want the taxes you do.
Yeah. No, but the school district, from superintendent now and from superintendents in the past, they worked real well with us in helping further the cause of what this building actually represents. Every new superintendent that we've had recently has always made a point to come and address the board of directors of the museum at the first meeting in the fall. And that makes the board feel good that they're being recognized by the school district, you know. And so we have 15 members. That's one point I didn't get to bring up yet. We have 15 members on the board of directors for the museum. I'm the executive director. I have no voting privileges or no voting rights or anything. And Lord knows I don't want any, to be honest with you. You know, and what
We understand that.
Yeah, you know, every decision that, you know, they make the decisions on everything. And so we have 15 board members. We have the principal of Benton High School, which is a permanent member. Mm-hmm. The athletic director of Benton High School, which is a permanent member. And then everything after that are members of the community at large who are willing to serve on the board of directors. We have teachers, we have businessmen, we have retired people, we have housewives. We don't have any young students because, as you know, they don't really have time because they're involved in so much other things, you know, to that. But the school district, what really has impressed me since I became the director in '07 is that the school district's involvement in utilizing this building to further the students' education of what it was like. I'll even have the head coach of the Benton Panther football team for the past, since about 1999, that every year they'll bring in the football team to see what everybody has done. Mm-hmm. You know, this type of thing, you know. And it's a real inspiration piece. It really is. The museum is open every Tuesday night, okay? and every Sunday afternoon.
Give us the hours on the Tuesday night.
Okay,
from
Tuesday night from 7 to 8:30,
7 to 8:30.
and Sunday afternoon from 11 o'clock until 3:30.
From 11 to 3:30 on Sundays. And this is not a building you come in and look at this dusty old stuff that
No.
somebody found in their attic that they, well, maybe they'll want it at Benton. I hate to throw it away, but that's not what it is. It's a history, it's a living history of what has happened in our community, in our school district here.
Right.
It's an educational tool.
Right.
It's very fascinating, it's informative, it's motivating. And Tom Harden had quite an amazing career, did he not?
He did. And Coach Harden, he was so respected when he left here. He was really, 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 really missed.
I'm sure.
And and then when he went to Fayetteville, of course that was higher classification.
Yes.
You come from Benton, Arkansas, and then you go to Fayetteville High School,
Yes.
Fayetteville, Arkansas, at their high school, okay? And then you go from there to the University of Arkansas,
And wow.
and then you go from there to Dade County, Florida.
That's Miami.
Yes, ma'am. And then you go from
Okay.
there to Pulaski County Special School District and stay as superintendent of the Pulaski County School District until he retires. And then he asked his wife, Betty, what do you want to do? And she said, I want to go back to Benton. He said, I'm hoping that's what you wanted to do. And so they came back to Benton.
And
this is
has all
is it.
taken place as a result of their work and their
And that
dedication.
original committee, that started out just talking at the Toggery with Coach Harden and some of those old football players and somebody, and in fact, I think it was Nelson Rainey that brought up the point, we need a room. And Johnny Wilbanks was the one that said, room nothing, we need a building.
Now you need an expansion. This
Well-
place is packed with all kinds of memorabilia. It is with trophies, with band uniforms, with yearbooks from Benton High School. There's so much here to see. Our time is slipping away, and it seems like we just started
I was gonna say,
talking.
we just got started.
And you didn't get to say a lot of things, but we'll have to come back and do another
I
program
would love to
sometime,
have you back.
because I want to know about the pink pig, the pink panther.
Oh, we
excuse
haven't
me,
got time to do the Pink Panther yet? Let's do the Pink, okay.
Real quick.
Okay, this is a short story of the Pink Panther.
Okay.
1974, we'd hired a new coach. Little Rock McClellan had just ended the contract with Benton to not play each other, okay? So the head coach was more interested in building a state championship team. So he told one of the assistant coaches, go out and find me somebody to play. I don't care who it is. Go out there and find somebody. So he said, okay. So this coach, who ended up being the head coach here later on after that, I won't call his name, but she knows who he is. Joey knows who he is. So he came back and he told Coach Graham, he said, I got somebody who's going to play. He said, who? He said, Brian. And Coach Graham, who had been from Stuttgart, said, yeah, I said, I've heard of them, blah, 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 blah. Being the head coach of Stuttgart, naturally, you're going to hear Brian, this kind of thing. So anyway, we scheduled for that fall. We had a Black Panther in front of Old Benton High School.
I remember that.
I mean, that thing was so jet black, it stood out like a sore thumb. But somebody just said beat on it. I mean, it was black. Well, Brian came over here and painted the thing pink. Okay? And so they thought that Benton was going to be intimidated. I mean, not intimidated. Benton would be embarrassed by having the big Black Panther painted pink. Well, little did they know that the following week at C.W. Lewis Stadium, the song started, da-dum, 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 and they started playing the Pink Panther theme song. Well, the people in Benton started going crazy. They loved it. I'm talking about the Benton Panther band started playing it, and then all of a sudden, the pink just engulfed Benton over something that Bryant had been trying to do to try to belittle the Benton Panther. You understand? Okay. And so what Benton did the following year, and I don't think this is any secret, it might be a secret of who did it, I know who did it, but Benton the following year, no we don't, no. But the following year, Benton went over and dropped pink marshmallows from a helicopter on Hornet Stadium, okay? And so what Benton would do after that, when Benton would make a first down, the Benton Panther band, dun-dum, dun-dum, they played the Pink Panther theme song. When they made a first down, when they made a touchdown, when they made a field goal, okay? When they'd walk into the football field, when they was walking out onto the football field for halftime, they would start out, and then when they'd stop in the middle of the field, then they'd do their routine. Then when they'd start off the field, they'd play the Pink Panther. They played the Pink Panther theme song so much that Benton loved it so much, and that Bryant was getting where they were getting sick of it. You know, but Benton was playing it everywhere. In fact, there's two mascots right now. One black mascot for the Benton Panther, for the Black Panther, and the Pink Panther mascot. That's out on the football field. There used to be two Panthers mounted on stakes at C.W. Lewis Stadium. One was maroon and gray, and the other one was pink.
So Bryant tried to, you know, that's just like the devil. He tries to do something bad, and God will turn it around and make something good out of it every time.
Oh yeah, you know, and then see, look at the pom poms. Look right there.
I noticed the pink pom poms.
Yeah, the pink pom poms. You know, everything with the pink. We even had pink footballs there for a while.
Yeah.
Not the big ones, but you know, they'd pass them out at the ball. The Pink Panther, pink pennants. And of course, they would have the maroon and gray also.
Yes.
You know, because they had, you know, you had to.
You had to have your school colors in there.
Right, and you had to make it one equal to the other.
Yes.
Because you know, some people didn't like the Pink Panther.
Well.
You know, and then you know, because I know there was a long time here in this museum that all we had as far as a Black Panther was concerned was little stuffed animal. Now we had this big Pink Panther, and people who were not Pink Panther fans, they'd come in here and they'd be raising Cain. Bert, you don't have Black Panther here. Bert, you don't have Black. Well, one Sunday, the class of 1954 walked into Benton Athletic Memorial Museum with this huge Black Panther sitting up there in the front right now.
I saw that when it came in.
That was the first actual full-blown Black Panther that was in this museum. And then, of course, and as you and I talked about earlier, the one that's in the foyer now, the big stuffed Black Panther.
Yes.
You know, that's on the registration table. But yeah, that the class of '54 was the one that, I guess they had it up to here walking in without, not a Black Panther in here. But the other point with that class of '54 is this. We have had 45 different class reunions that have been held in this museum. When classes would hold their reunions, this would be part of their tour. In fact, last year, there was one that Benton was playing on Friday night. They had they came over here with pickups, barbecue pits, and radios. They had a barbecue out in front of the museum. They had their desserts and the stuffs that would get hot and melt and everything like that in here because it was cold. But the barbecue pits with the hamburgers being cooked and the hot dogs and everything else and the radios, and they was listening to the ball game on the radios out on the parking lot and had lawn chairs and everything else all lined up in front of the museum. So we've had, you know, a lot of classes who come in here. In fact, we have had classes all the way up until the 2000s that have been into this museum. I've got one class that's coming in this fall that as a class, they have never been in here before, but they have finally worked it out that this is top priority, that they are coming in. They've never been in here as a class, and they're going to hold their reunion in here.
I'm sure that they are going to enjoy it, and to me, I enjoy going back to the museum at Boxhouse because that's where I went to school.
Correct.
And look at all the things there. It brings back so many memories and things like that. But if you have the opportunity, please come out and visit this museum. If you don't, make the time to do so. It's a community thing. It's history. So come out and enjoy it, and I thank you so very much for joining me today. We're going to have to do this again sometime so we can get some more of the story, because there's so many fabulous stories in here that he was telling me.
What I'd like to tell you one time, what I'd like to tell you next time you get to come, is about the haunting of C.W. Lewis Stadium.
Oh, well, we'll have to do that one. We will have to do that one. But for now, we're out of time. But again, thank you so much. And I thank you for joining us. If you've comments, questions, suggestions for the show, please let me know. My number is 501-317-7187. For this week, I want to wish you all a good week, and God bless you.